What's up, YouTube? Today, we're going to dive into something that's a little bit controversial. It's a hot topic in the reptile world right now, particularly amongst snake keepers. All right, we're going to be talking about UVB light. And this comes to us from our first herpetological panel forum based on rainbow boas. We had that last week. If you missed it, I'm going to put a link right up here. That's to the original panel on Zoom. It was over an hour long, so there's a lot to sift through, so that's why we're breaking up into chunks like this. Today, I really want to focus on one question. We just touched on it briefly about UVB lighting for snakes, and is it important? There's been studies done on it, particularly with corn snakes, which is more of a crepuscular species, where rainbow boa tends to be nocturnal. So there's a lot of debate as to whether or not UVB is actually necessary. We know that it does something, but is that something required of us to keep these snakes in captivity? As snake keepers, we all want to do the very best we can for our animals. And the breeders we brought on, John Wiseman, Dave Colling, Stephen Green, and Ike Lightner, they're all very experienced, and they've had numbers, hundreds between the four of them, probably thousands of healthy baby snakes. So it really invites the question, is UVB beneficial? Well, yeah, there's benefit to it. But is it necessary? That's what we're going to kind of talk about here. I do want to ask you that if you're liking these discussions, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel, like the video, do all that stuff to help us out, to help get the word out there about this page, and that way we can get more of these meetings out to you guys. I'm going to introduce a little bit of the articles that spurred this question, and I'm going to post the links to some of that research and literature in the description below as well to make it easy on you. Guys, check it out. This is a question that I think is coming up, and some people would consider it, have considered it controversial, and I think really the answer is both ways. You might anger some people. This is one of those, and I'm sorry to put you guys to it, this is one of those questions where someone, no matter what you say, someone's going to tell you you're wrong. But it won't be me, so we don't have to worry about that today. But something that comes up a lot today is when people talk about UV light. So it seems to be a trendy addition to snake discussions, even though this notion is not very new, even amongst the study of nocturnal animals. So I'm going to talk about a couple of journals here. In Diurnal Activities of a Nocturnal Animal in 1952, so, what is that, 70 years ago, article published in the journal Herpetologica, noted herpetologist Bayard Bratstrom makes the following remarkable statement. He says, the increasing mass of evidence regarding the function of the pituitary gland of animals in relation to solar radiation and sexual and other associated cycles, and the known importance of vitamin D and other physiological factors associated with absorption of solar radiation would seem to make desirable the report of instances of diurnal activity observed in supposed nocturnal animals. All of that is to say that they noticed benefit from exposure to solar radiation for certain functions, whether it's coming out to breed or anything like that. There was a study by Ferguson and others from University of Illinois who did a corn snake study where they measured the vitamin D in a control group, a group that didn't have UVB light, and these are corn snakes, so not rainbow boa. So I want to touch on why we can't just apply broad strokes to that as well. They had a control group where they didn't apply UVB, and the vitamin D levels were obviously static. But then there was another group that they did apply UVB radiation, and their vitamin D levels were just about 4 times higher after a period of about 30 days, so of being exposed to it. So once we cover all of that, and we'll kind of go in order and see what you guys think about this. Is there a benefit to UVB light, and or is it necessary, or should we consider giving it to our snakes if we're given a proper home?
I don't know what's going on there with Mr. Green. Do you mind if I start this one? Do you mind if I start this one?
No, please.
I read the articles that you sent. The first one about the levels affecting the pituitary, I didn't really see compelling data. It was sort of circumstantial data. And then in the other study that I read, yeah, it showed higher levels of vitamin D, but who cares? Like, what benefit did that have to the animal? For example, you and I, we can take multivitamins until, we can pop multivitamins like Pez, but our body's only going to use so much of it and it's going to excrete the rest. Now, I'm going to follow up that statement with saying there's no downside to adding the UV lighting. I'm just not sure that adding the UV lighting is making a significant difference. And I didn't read anything, and I'm not a herpetologist by, my degrees are not in herpetology. So I was reading these articles, but there's a practical component of it too. When you're me, Dave, Ike, we've got 100 plus snakes. How are we going to get UV light to all of them? So that's sort of was my thoughts when I was reading those articles that you sent.
And I'm going to add to John's statement. I'm a seat of the pants herpetologist. I don't have any formal education. I've just been raising rainbow boas and producing babies and have a grand old time doing it. Corn snakes are diurnal, I believe. They're out in the daytime and the nighttime. So therefore, I could see where they could get the benefit of having UVB light because they're naturally going to get UVB light in the wild. Rainbow boas are straight up nocturnal, and they bury themselves in the litter on the forest floor. So they're going to receive minimal, if any, solar radiation directly on them. Where they do get their vitamin D is from their prey. And again, it goes back to the absorption and whether or not they're going to get enough absorption out of the animals that they're eating. So I have never thought or felt a need to provide UVB light to a rainbow boa. Other snakes, absolutely. Lizards and daytime creatures, absolutely. But not a nocturnal only species.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's the reason why corn snakes did have measurable measurable D3 levels, even the ones in the control group without UVB light, is because they get it from their whole prey. They're eating a full animal, nose to tail, and a lot of that organ meat is rich in the vitamins, especially mammalian meat. An insectivore or an herbivore like a lizard, they're not going to get enough of that from their food. So I know that's been the argument. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that in one way or the other? I always like to kind of ask that one. Ike or Steve?
Say that on the lighting aspect, I hear a lot of people all the time talking about putting lights on their rainbow boat cages and trying to, deck it all out. That's basically for their enjoyment, but a lot of times it's counterproductive for the snake. And so I end up telling them a lot of the time, yeah, you can't put them in a dark closet 24/7. They need to have ambient room so they can have a daytime cycle and a nighttime cycle, but they don't need an overhead light.
Wow. So there you have it. There definitely are benefits to giving your snake UVB lighting, and that could be improved health, improved scale colors, and well as overall benefit in mood. However, it's yet to be proven that there's actually a benefit compared to getting the vitamin D3 from their whole prey, particularly in nocturnal animals like the Brazilian rainbow boa and the Colombian rainbow boa. So our breeders were a little bit torn on the subject of whether or not it's necessary. Just for the record, you guys can see them behind me. I give all my animals in there the more permanent enclosures, not necessarily in quarantine, but I give them UVB light because I think that, hey, it might help them. Let's see if we can give them everything possible. But I understand if you're a breeder with 200 animals, it's not going to be practical for you to be able to provide that for them. It's going to drive the cost of the market way up and really create barriers to entry for the reptile hobby that could actually be detrimental to conservation and other facets like that. So is it necessary for all snakes? That's still what we don't know yet. Let me know, guys, if you want, or if you know of any good scientists that I should bring onto a panel that we could discuss this with too, because I feel like there's still a lot we can learn about this and figuring out the best way to keep these snakes. Well, that's it, guys. I won't take any more of your time today. As always, like and subscribe to this channel. Here's the link to the original panel. So if you missed it and you just want to get the whole thing, check out that link. Here's a button to subscribe. Thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed learning something today.